Welcome a new week. A denizen of the one of my favorite cuisines in the world and the incredible traveler. Welcome, George. It's not Jorge. He always reminds me, and I always forget. George Serpa, welcome.
Stefan, nice to be with you, and hello as well to all the EPS tribe. It's really a great honor to be here.
Well, thank you. And we first met a year ago in person after much correspondence, and it's great to rekindle our conversation. I think we should start with your modes of transport. So the picture we showed is a motorcycle, and my wife has banned me. She was a friend of the mother of a friend who once said that she had Chinese, and she said that a car is metal outside and meat inside, and the motorcycle is metal inside, meat outside. So I've not had the opportunity. I've ridden on the back of a few.
We have to work on her, but don't worry, we'll convert her. We'll convert her to the tribe.
To talk about, and as I said, I've ridden on the back of a few, and mainly in China, where small towns where that's the transport they've had. And it seems fun. It seems freeing. It also seems very tiring to sit on those. I guess it's like the idea of riding on a horse, maybe not so as tiring.
Well, first of all, it really depends on which motorcycle you have. And yes, there are motorcycles which are a bit tiring. That's not the case with mine. Mine is it's a motorcycle that's really built for long distance travel and slightly in say in adventurous conditions. But the absolutely the fascinating thing about traveling and motorcycling is a fantastic way of traveling because you're traveling at what I call the sea level. Sea spelled SEE. I'm not sure if you remember that the Amtrak's slogan long time ago. Travel at sea level, and motorcycle represents that better than anything else. And there's something else as well. Especially the BMWs loaded up with the bags, the tires, and that pile behind you. You stop anywhere. Anywhere, you stop at a cafe, you stop at a restaurant. In about 2 or 3 seconds, you're talking to someone. Anyone will come to you, and they want to find out what's happening. You know, in South America, people would come up to me and say, Maryland, which country is that? So I have to explain that now it's not a country, it's a state. In Alaska, people will come up to me and say, "Wow, man, you come all the way from Maryland on that." It's just you there on the motorcycle. You're part of the scenery. You're part of the movie. You're part of you are close to the action.
Yeah, there is. It seems as approachability to it that, as you said, I guess people just maybe it's like some countries when having a child with people just feel like it's acceptable just to walk right up and start talking. And for a traveler, what better thing can you have as a conversation starter?
Yeah, you're not separated by any metal. You know what your wife is referring to. You're not separating with any metal from the crowd and from the people, and you're in total control over destiny. You can, especially in a motorcycle like mine, which is built to go a little bit off road as well. So you can go you can go anywhere you want, and it gets your heart going. It's fascinating to travel on a motorcycle.
Fantastic. So somebody who is total novice like myself, talk about how we can learn, what kind of equipment, the whole process of going from zero to George.
Now, the only thing you really want, the only real thing you really need is the desire to travel. Motorcycles for me has been the end state, or the current state, I should say, of a very long progression. It started with sailboats. It moved on to cars and off-road cars, and right now I am in a motorcycle stage. I guess but and my very so this is somewhat recent, and my very very first long distance travel on a motorcycle after many years that I didn't ride a motorcycle was to go from Paris to Guinea-Bissau. I hadn't ridden very much on off road. I hadn't ridden on a big motorcycle like the one I had, and you're going across some interesting places, to say the least. But as long as there's the desire, and after that trip, I actually went and did a course for off-road driving. So nowadays I feel a bit more comfortable, when the asphalt finished. But again, what you need is a desire, and if there's a desire, you can do anything at all. You can even go to the moon. Man has gone to the moon based on desire.
And you mentioned Guinea-Bissau. That's a country that's fascinated me. I had a stay that I immediately felt was too short, and anyone flying in or out in daytime would see this incredible archipelago. I've heard from some guests about waterfalls inland. It seems to me like in 20, 30, 40 years, it could be the next big ecotourism destination, despite all the governance challenges they have at the moment. What was that? What year was that trip, and what was that like?
That was in 2010. So it's amazing how fast time flies. It was 2010. The archipelago we're referring to is Bijagos, and it is paradisiacal. Unfortunately, right now is kind of an entry point to a lot of drugs coming from South America into Europe. As a matter of fact, one of the funniest stories, about Guinea-Bissau was this is a country. This in Bissau, the capital. There's barely any roads that were surfaced. And I was overtaken on my motorcycle by a Ferrari, by a red Ferrari. Which again, it's a country loaded with problems. A lot of them imported from elsewhere, and but it's a wonderful place, and like all countries in that region, the people, man, the people, it's the people. It's all about the people, and that's why we travel. It's the people that we come across, and Guinea-Bissau has an incredible population. Being Portuguese, it was like being welcome. It was fascinating.
And you are a native speaker of Portuguese, but you are a native by birth of Mozambique, and that's a country that I suppose some of the neighboring countries like South Africa, they treat it as a beach destination. Some visitors in the country collecting community, as so often happens, take very short visits, but it's quite a diverse country and landscape, certainly, and it's not small. So talk about your upbringing there.
Well, but Stefan, attention, I'm a citizen of Portugal that grew up in Mozambique. At that time, Mozambique was an ex-colony of Portugal until 1974, and my father was working there, so I grew up there, and it's a beautiful place. It was back then and still is, and Mozambique is another one of those places that perhaps with Morocco and whatever, it's one of those places that talks to my heart. I met my wife there. I grew up there. I met my wife there. My daughter went to the Peace Corps in Mozambique. So I say, hopefully, half jokingly, I hope, but when I die, I guess I'm going to be buried in Mozambique.
And can you give us the lay of the land? It's a long country. It's maybe unconventionally shaped, and it seems the tourist attractions are very different from north to south.
Yes, it's a very, very, very long country with I think it's one of the biggest, probably the second or the third biggest shoreline in the continent of Africa. The north is absolutely gorgeous, but the north right now is having a little bit of security problems. But that's where the famous, the really, really, really famous unpopulated beaches are. In the Ponta Delgada and Ibo up there. The south is has also beautiful beaches, a little bit more, a tiny bit more commercial. And even though I use that word with a grain of salt, and the commercial in Mozambique, we're certainly not talking like the front line in Miami, but it's a bit more developed, a bit more, resorts, basically run by South Africans for South Africans, and then in the middle you have a jewel, which is the Gorongosa National Park. Mozambique has another very interesting aspect. Mozambique was really a platform to serve the hinterland. So it's a lot easier to travel, east-west than it is to travel north-south. So the train lines, the pipelines, the roads, everything runs along parallels. making it a bit challenging to travel north-south in the country. But it's certainly God, it's certainly man, it's a place to go. It's gorgeous. Again, wonderful people, nice cuisine, curries and a lot of seafood. It's a very enjoyable place.
Whale sharks. I've meant to see them in many places and never been the right season or the right day to see them. I know Mozambique was on another of my close calls where it was just out of season.
Yep. You have to be careful. You have to read the signs. Sometimes they get a bit close.
I guess it does. Yeah, it sounds really interesting until you realize you're in that territory. In the national park you mentioned, is that the UNESCO World Heritage Site as well, the island of Mozambique?
No, that's a different thing. The island of Mozambique, it's the original, the first capital of Mozambique. It's a gorgeous place. When last time I was there, was quite a couple decades ago, it had fallen in a little bit of a, it was slightly in bad shape. Let's put it that way. But just you sense the history, man. You sense in the place, the castle, the fortifications, and whatever. It's something that really gets your heart pumping. The park that I was referring is a Gorongosa, the Gorongosa National Park, which actually, interesting enough, is being rehabilitated. During for quite some time, that place was the headquarters of the rebellion, of the anti-government rebellion group, Renamo. But so basically, all the animals suffered, and it was the center of the civil war, really. And there's no civil wars in Africa which are not, terrible. And the Mozambican one was certainly a bad thing. But anyway, so right now there is an American that put quite a lot of money and is rehabilitating Gorongosa, and I've heard from people that are there, that the place is it's regaining his status as an absolutely must see.
And what are we seeing there? And where is the location more specifically?
It's slightly west of Beira. Just slightly west of Beira. So it's in between Beira and Zimbabwe, and Gorongosa is spelled G as in golf, O as in Oscar, R as in Romeo, Oscar, Gorong, November, Gorongosa, golf, Oscar, whatever, Gorongosa.
It just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, there's not very many national parks in Mozambique. So so if you just Google National Park Mozambique, you're most likely going to find Gorongosa.
We had an earlier episode where one of the guests started quite a debate about different safety issues in the capital, Maputo, and was widely varying experiences of people that had visited in the past several years. What do you know about the safety situation currently?
Well, my daughter was a Peace Corps volunteer there for 2 years, living in the middle of in a very small village, not too far away from Maputo, and we felt safe. I felt safe, So and I know that they are trained to but I think I personally, I never had any. I was there about the last time I was in Mozambique was about 2 years ago. I was there. I didn't feel any threatened. I didn't feel But Stefan, as you know very well, there's no place, not even Washington D.C., which is safe. There's an element of risk no matter where you are.
Yeah, in some of these comments and experiences were specific to police and attempts at bribes or some kind of shakedown rather than say street crime.
Yeah, I mean, as I often say, I mean, normally, most of the times I feel a lot more, I feel a lot more fear, close to people in uniforms than in the middle of in the middle of the crowds.
Are there stories behind that anywhere in your travels about uniforms, or that's just?
Oh, are you kidding me? But that's part of the beauty, man. That's part of the beauty. Yeah, I mean, especially one of I'm not sure if it's challenging things or beautiful things of traveling overland is that yes, you have to go through borders, and borders are, especially in certain continents. And don't get me wrong, man, I love Africa. I spent a lot of time there, but borders in certain places are a bit challenging, but that's also a little bit the reason why we travel, isn't it? To feel, to experience different things, to see different ways of being and whatever. Yeah, but borders borders in Africa are and sometimes police controls, and it's not only in Africa. I had some issues as well in Bolivia in South America. So and in Argentina. So but with a little bit of experience, you learn how to deal with those things, and you try as much as you possibly can not to give money. But there's a little judgment there, and yeah, sometimes you have to pull out of the wallet and buy you a free pass.
Yeah, I was thinking these modes of transport, when people talk about how much easier travel has gotten, they're often thinking about flying into a place, and generally I think it's reasonable to say that in any given country, the air entry point is probably easier, where the land or sea, I guess separate from cruises, but certainly the land crossings can be a wild card, and the visa on arrivals that may exist at an airport may only exist in theory or persuasion on the land border, or not at all.
But to compensate for that, I can tell you something. I have felt the way I have felt sometimes just after, going over a border overland. Does not compare. You never felt anything like that. Getting into any place on an airplane. Yeah. And there's just a sense of sometimes when you're done with and sometimes you're stuck there for a couple of hours, and just that sense of being done with it, it's like almost like seeing the finish line on a marathon, and it's it carries you for the rest of the day, believe me.
And I'm thinking, say, Uzbekistan to Turkmenistan, this like 2 or 3 kilometer no man's land. I mean, there's a little marshruti that takes people back and forth, but I had nothing other than hope in an email from a few weeks before that the guide with my visa would be on the other side. I had no way back into Uzbekistan, and I thought this would be a very hot, uncomfortable place to be stuck for a while.
The border between Morocco and Mauritania is something like that. The only difference is that you are in a minefield. So you're riding a motorcycle in a minefield with the leftovers of old cars on either side of the street. But you referred to an area that I really want to visit, and that I had planned on being there, last year. I had to postpone because of this COVID thing. But yeah, that's a wonderful end of the world and one that I need to go.
Speak about that Morocco to Mauritania, because that seems to fascinate many travelers, myself included. I've dipped in and out of the region, but not had such an extensive trip.
Well, Morocco, I have to say, Morocco is one of my favorite countries in the world. And again, because of my love for overlanding, it's incredible, especially southern Morocco. You can spend a whole day off-road and beautiful desert peace, and totally by yourself, wondering if there's anybody else on this planet. And then somehow like magic, at the end of the day, you always end up in a little town with a wonderful hotel, a wonderful meal, prices which are absolutely incredible, and it's like magic. And the level of diversity as well, from the Atlas Mountains. I think Morocco is one of those places that you can go skiing, in the morning, and then go to the beach in the afternoon. So yes, it's a wonderful place. Again, wonderful people. They do have a little problem, which is their alcohol policy. Being a Muslim country, it's but you can, and if you know where to go, you solve that problem as well. But yeah, but it's a fantastic place, and loads of history, beautiful architecture, beautiful buildings. It's a pleasure to go there. I've been there many times. I've traveled in Morocco almost in every single means of transport, except camel. Yeah, but yeah, I love it, and I'll go back anytime I possibly can.
So pick your means of transport. Your ultimate Morocco trip. We'll say somebody's able to budget 3 weeks.
Oh,
Transport, itinerary, too much to pick from. What do you do?
well, if you are a motorcycle rider, no doubt motorcycle. If you're not a motorcycle rider, rent a 4-wheel drive and go 4-wheel driving. It's just the south, all the ergs, the Dodge, the gorge of Dades, and all the southern part of Morocco is absolutely gorgeous. And then you end up in probably my favorite town of all, at Sidi Ifni. And the place there, the hotel there is what's the name of the hotel? It's Suerte Loca,
Mm.
Hotel Suerte Loca, and right on the beach, overlooking the beach, paying at in my days was like about $15 a day, or a night in a beautiful place, and then just come up north, towards Tangier along the coast. So that would be my itinerary. Start on the east side of the country, go all the way down to the southern tip, and then all the way to the coast, and then north along the coast. You know, Essaouira is like the beach resort in town, and then Mazagan with all the Portuguese history. So it's a lot of stuff to do, man. It's difficult. It's impossible to be bored in Morocco.
Mm. Yeah, I took a road trip by car there in the north, more or less. I was interested in those little dots of Spanish territory and some historic
Tangier.
sites in the
Yeah.
north, and had a fantastic time. And the south is on my list. Nelson Garces in the comments. How do you like better to travel? Motorcycle, car, other means? I think you've said motorcycle is the favorite.
Motorcycle is the current one. I'm not saying it's a favorite one. Contrary to a lot of my friends who are hardcore motorcyclists, I consider myself a traveler. If so it depends where I'm going. It depends where I'm going. Depends what's the objective. And yeah, for Morocco, for me, the best way to travel is by motorcycle. If I'm in the Caribbean, it's sailboat. Hands down. Sailing is it's the way. So it depends. It really depends on where you are, what you're trying to do, Yeah.
Let's take a moment to pause and show some photos of your conveyances, and we're not going to turn this into a giant slideshow, so we'll quickly run through these, and a rapid fire comment of each of cantering through your many journeys.
Let's go.
All right, is that on the screen for everyone? I believe so. All right, we've got Jorge. Can you see as well?
No, I cannot see it.
Okay, so that could be a challenge. It's the first is it goes in the order that you provided them to me. So the first is the sailboat.
Oh, so that's a picture. If that's the one that I think it's actually a bad picture. It's from the press release. It's actually a scan. This is from back in my days racing sailboats. This was my first racing boat.
And Oceanus 393, New York.
Yes, that's in Porto Santo. In Porto Santo, shortly after my arrival from Lisbon on my transatlantic crossing,
Right. And we've got Danger Mines. I think we heard mention of your mine.
That's in northern Chad, in the Tibesti region. We're visiting a demining camp way up there, and I guess I just love the shape of the shadow over the sand of the sign. It's very, very northern Chad, one of the heaviest mined regions of Africa. Conflict with Libya.
I think I'm just checking. I think the pictures may not have launched the way I thought they were launching. So this just double checking to troubleshoot. I think I've done this once before, and no. So I have to figure this out. So Let me go back. Apologies to all. I thought I had this figured out. So why did it not do that? That's a question. Application window, share. We'll try one more time, and if it doesn't work, we're going to have to fall back to the backup. So it always works when you test it, and then not. So it says we're sharing a window, but we do not appear to be. So we will just edit that moment out and give it a pause. So I don't know why my camera's not cooperating.
We can always make it another time.
Yes, we'll make it another time.
The only thing about the pictures is that, you know, as you know, I've seen a couple of your shows here during the COVID, and what's a bit different from my way of traveling is that, you know, it's really different. Most of your guests travel in a more conventional manner. So I think it would be interesting to show different different reality, really. And it's kind of funny because we all travel for different reasons. And Stefan, why do you travel, man? What's in it for you?
You got me stumped. It's an addiction, but it's it's probably there's a thrill and an excitement that appear, and when I have a lot of friends that are interested in aviation, and I have no interest in aviation other than it gets me there. But I found that the second I'm off the plane and I'm at that border crossing you mentioned, whether it's an airport or land, I'm suddenly excited and interested. I love the new experiences. I love learning about a place and how to navigate it and feel like I've figured something out, and walking around a city for hours and getting a sense of a place. So walking is my favorite mode of transport, and that rewarding feeling that I've learned something new, I've interacted with people. That's what really gets me going.
That sense of learning something, right? You know, that hopefully we're picking something. Yeah, I mean, I find it absolutely fascinating, and I think it would be fascinating to do some research on this COVID thing. About, is this really an addiction? Do we have a physiological need to travel? Why do certain people really have this need to travel? And it's fascinating as well, because there's many reasons to travel. I know friends that travel basically to be in a resort and just sit by the beach and stay there for 15 days and probably never leave the resort and read a book, and they're truly happy, But anyway, so we all this to say we all travel for different reasons and in different manners. And my ways of traveling are slightly different from what I've seen in your show, and that's the reason why I decided to present you with some of the pictures.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll keep working on that. I have a backup method that might work, and
Don't worry.
get to them. But I am curious. Sailboats, another thing. I've been on sailboats in very modest conditions, but crossing the Atlantic, that's something that seems out of history, and you did that in 2002, 2003. I mean, it's such a daunting, foreboding place. I feel like that setting off from shore is just what a journey.
No, so I crossed the Atlantic on a 39-footer, and one of the things about that is you are in the middle of the Atlantic, and on a 39-footer, probably about 2 feet from the surface of the ocean. God, man, and you realize how small you really are, man. You're that close to the water, and in that immensity of water, in a nutshell, you realize that you're really small. And but traveling by sailboat, it's not so much the crossing the borders. So the excitement, the adrenaline of traveling on motorcycles comes on after you cross the border. On the sailboat is the night before you make landfall. That last night at sea, it's like absolutely like magic, man. The world is absolutely gorgeous. Life is beautiful, and that that tomorrow you're gonna hit the marina, and you're gonna have a very cold beer, and life is just absolutely totally gorgeous, totally gorgeous.
What is it like at the halfway point? I feel like the first time I took a very long flight, it was like 14 hours. It's 7 hours. I was like, oh, I can't believe this is halfway, and it's nothing like crossing the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, I mean the halfway point. I mean, you're talking about 14 hours. We're talking about the crossing Atlantic was 14 days. So yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. It's actually something. It's a great training for COVID quarantine, because it's 14 days that you have stuck in a place. You cannot go anywhere. And you have to learn how to be happy with yourself without. And this is not a question of option. It's just you cannot go anywhere. You are limited to the sailboat. So every single time, and many times during this quarantine period, this lockdown, it brought me back to my days of sailing. And sometimes I wish that a lot of more people had spent a lot of more time in sailboats, so that they learn how to stay put, stay still, and learn how to stay still, which is challenging.
Yeah, I mean, you think about how frustrated we've all been, and yet most of us have, within our reach, an entertainment device that can stream more entertainment, literature, film than the most of human history has combined been able to partake in, and yet it still feels like nothing to do or boring at times. And that I've tried to appreciate more, sitting out on my balcony, just looking outside of what it means to be solitary.
I'm still from the days of the shortwave radios. So so for me, when I was out there, the only thing that we had was a shortwave radio. And I'm not sure if you ever tried to tune in one of those shortwave
I did
radios. And you finally got something, and then it just comes and goes. And so our entertainment, believe it or not, our entertainment was in the middle of the day, in the middle of the afternoon, listening to the news from the Portuguese national radio, and just comment on the Portuguese news, which is somewhat surreal. But that's yeah. I mean, this is a 39-footer. Was I come from a racing background, so no TVs, no internets, nothing at all. These are basically bare boats. And so that's and we did a lot of fishing as well.
Yeah, thinking of that, one of our favorite restaurants in the world, Fernando's on the beach in Macau, where the first time my wife ever liked Western bread. I see the brothers that run that spot, and they're just sitting there every day, every year, enjoying their little peek at the water, and I feel like it's clearly a difficult thing to be a restaurateur, but there's the happiness and contemplativeness of being in that spot and seeing these harried travelers coming and going.
And what an incredible place! I was there for the first time last year. What an incredible, fascinating place! I have some pictures of Macau that with the Portuguese calçada and even the Portuguese signs and whatever, and if I switch the cut lines, I could pass them for pictures in Lisbon.
And so many people give Macau grief or say it's only about the casinos. I enjoyed visiting the old Chinese style casinos, which are very different than some of the new construction. It still exists. The Lisboa is still there, but visiting the pawn shops, visiting the racetrack, these old Portuguese neighborhood cemeteries, I love it as a destination, and feel like if people just pop into a new casino, what's the point?
Stefan, I was there. I didn't go to a single one casino. I end up with quite a few pictures of the casinos, the buildings, but I did not go into a single one. And again, what an incredible place. I absolutely loved it. It was my first time there, and again, was to me was really impressive to see some of the leftovers of the Portuguese heritage in that far away from that little piece of land in the western end of Europe, so it was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, the Portuguese Wine Museum. I'm not an expert, but it's it makes you an expert, and there are samples as part of your visit. So even that, and I mentioned the Casino Lisboa, the attached hotel, because there's these very famous cookies they have, which the cookies probably their reputation exceeds the taste. But if anybody in Hong Kong hears that you're going there for the day, you've got to bring back a tin of these cookies. And I remember visiting with my parents, and I was in college a semester in Hong Kong, and they were visiting, and some friend had asked, you have to get these cookie tin. And so my parents go into the shop, and they come out 2 minutes later, and I'm already surrounded by purveyors of the sensual services, you can say. And they're saying, no, go away, that's our son.
But so I went to Macau from Hong Kong, and to me it was absolutely fascinating to see the difference between what the English did in Hong Kong and what the Portuguese did in Macau. And also I think in a lot of ways it reflects the troubles and the difference that between the two regions about what's happening with China. The English in Hong Kong, they were able to create the Hong Kongers, the sense of they really were able to create a different sense of being different from China, as opposed to in Macau. You have all that heritage and all those buildings, but in a lot of ways, even me, I was Portuguese, and you realize that they were all Chinese, and they were Chinese. That there was never any sense of being Macauans or any say long connection with Portugal. And I think that's the result of that is that Macau, they look at what's happening in Hong Kong and they cannot believe what's happening there. And what's happening in Hong Kong, it had to happen because it had to happen. Anyway,
I'm going to ask. I'm so curious about the world of Portuguese travel in a sense. But Nelson has been asking about around the world with all means of transportation, and I think I've got the photo error I made. I think I've got it corrected with the camera. So we will try that. We will be off.
All right.
We'll be off camera while we work through this. So, and
all right. So that's a racing boat.
And let's see. I will have to go over here.
All right. That's in Porto Santo at the first at the end of the first leg of the transatlantic. This is northern Chad, demining. This is the Sahel at its best, man. This is the little village of Zuarque and the Tibesti in northern Chad. This is the town. This is the town.
Wow, and that's a trip where you're loaded up with all the fuel you might possibly need and water and supplies, and
Stefan, there's not very many places in Chad where I have not been stuck. And sometimes you get off you open up the door of your car and you look around and the only thing you say is, how the hell am I going to get out of here? And somehow you always do. I'm here. So it takes a bit. It might take a little bit, but eventually you get the car out and you get going again. Yeah, this is in the northern Cameroon. This is our guide looking for the elephant herds at the Waza National Park.
Oh my goodness!
This is my kids looking, and this is in the western Chad, the Elephant Rock. Looking, that's a great picture. That's a great show of what the Sahel looks like.
Fantastic and different than I would imagine.
Yeah,
just about every desert I visited or desert landscape has been different than I imagined, except Namibia. They've got the one spot that's like all the Hollywood movies.
No, because what we refer to desert, it's really the right word is erg. Desert. And this is the Sahel, so this is south of the Sahara. So sparse vegetation, a little bit of sand, very very flat. So this is Sahel. Yeah. This I don't need to tell you what this is. This is a charging hippo. This
is the Michael Novins photo.
Man, this is You should talk to my daughter about this picture. She could have slapped this guy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is in Morocco, southern Morocco.
Wow. So talk a bit about, you mentioned learning how to drive off-road, and this, when I see this, I think of flat tires.
No, flat tires is not so much a problem. The problem is, and the problem was back in those days, navigation, and trying to keep the car above the sand, which in here obviously it's not a problem as well. And driving over sand, it's one of the most fantastic things to do, because you basically, the trick is to keep the car floating, on top of the sand. As soon as the car starts going whoom, 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 you know that you're dead. So it's always second gear, pedal to the metal. The car sidewinding all over the place, and the important thing is that you don't get that stuck. That's the challenge. And navigation. But nowadays with GPS, things are a lot more simple on that realm. This is Portugal. This is for the book, for the slow roads. This is actually two surfers in Algarve in southern Portugal. This one is also from the book, from Slow Roads. This is Lisbon. Well, yeah, Lisbon. We can move on. This is a fascinating place. This is the Azores. This is the by the volcano of the Capelinhos. What you're looking at is the second floor of the lighthouse building. So the ashes basically covered the first floor.
And so talk about the Azores. You've got, at a minimum, the difficult decision of which island or islands to visit.
There's 9 islands, and they are all different. And if you like nature, there's absolutely no place like this, like the Azores on this planet. Especially if you like nature, if you want to go trail walking and looking at the fish and the whales and then, whatever. I strongly recommend Santa Maria. If you are a sailor, you have to go to Faial. You really have to go to Faial. You have to go to Horta. That's the place where historically it's been the mailbox of all sailors in across Atlantic. If you are cosmopolitan, you have to go to San Miguel, to Ponta Delgada. So all the islands are slightly different, but they're all absolutely worth it.
Yeah. So there's the answer of, are there any that we should not go to out of the 9? Is no, go to them all.
Man, go to them all, and unless my only I think there's Corvus and Flores. I think it's Flores. There's one which is it's very little, very sparsely populated. I think there's 80 inhabitants. So if you need people around you, that's probably the one to avoid.
Or the one to go to this year if it's safe. And
the one to go in this year. Yeah, this is from the trip that Nelson is talking about. So I did. This is in 2009 when my wife was in Iraq. My wife is a diplomat with the U.S. Foreign Service, and she was sent to Iraq. So I had a year that I could do whatever I wanted. I was not allowed to go, obviously. So I decided to go around the world on the alternative means of transports, and so I crossed the U.S. on trains, traversed the Pacific on a container vessel, which you're looking at. This is Engine, Pennsylvania, I think it was, or Philadelphia, somewhere between Oakland and Tokyo. And then I ended up crossing all of Asia and Europe by trains, by various trains. Again, and on that trip. And for that segment, the ideal mode of transport was the train. So so guess what? That's how I went.
Is there a particular country or route of the train trip that jumps out to you? Is
Mongolia?
Mongolia.
Yeah. Mongolia is fascinating.
And you were on Russian or Chinese?
I'm sorry?
Train-wise, you were on Russian or Chinese train? Or...
No, so I was on the Trans-Mongolia from Beijing all the way up to Ulaanbaatar, and then I stayed on the Trans-Mongolia to Lake Baikal. They do that thing to change the wheels at the border between China and Mongolia. But what I did in Mongolia, what I did in Ulaanbaatar is I rented a car. a driver, and a translator. And the three of us on this, it was supposed to be a four-wheel drive, and they call it a four-wheel drive. It was basically looked like a milk delivery truck. And we traveled about 2 weeks around Mongolia, the three of us, and it was absolutely fascinating. The Mongolia is for overlanders the way that the Virgin Islands or the Caribbean are for sailors. When this planet was made, someone said, overlanders need a place to go to, and he created Mongolia. Yeah. This is my very first long distance travel on a motorcycle, trying to show off near Dakla on off-road. And this was what happened. Some way somehow.
Dakla, for those not familiar.
Some way somehow I didn't fall.
Could you place Dakla for those not familiar?
I'm sorry?
Could you place Dakla in the world for those not familiar?
Dakla is in southern Morocco. Southern Morocco. It's probably the last bit of real civilization before you enter into northern Mauritania, and so it's a place where you go to reload your feel goods. You have a good meal. This is in southern Mauritania along the Senegal River, approaching the border with Senegal. And when I say I love this picture, as my comment on that is I just wish that the deer in the United States of America were this considerate, and that they looked before crossing the road. And this is in Guinea-Bissau. This is right after that very last border in São Domingos, after a fantastic lunch in Varela Beach in northern Guinea-Bissau. So this is our last day on the road. I mean, we're just having fun, just sheer good fun. Oh, this is another continent. This is Dalton Highway. So this is probably one of the most iconic roads for ADV riders in the Western Hemisphere. So this is the road that goes from Fairbanks all the way up to Dead Horse. So this is the northernmost point you can get by road on a road in the United States of America, and this is right at the beginning of that road. This is on the other side. This is on Ruta 40 in Argentina, approaching the border with Chile. And so it's the opposite it's the equivalent of the Dalton Highway in the Southern Hemisphere. Yeah, this is that picture that you have to take. This is in Ushuaia and Patagonia. You really you cannot go there without taking this picture because it's illegal. It's against the law.
All right. And I think that concludes the slideshow. You said it's against the law. So.
All right.
So we are back. That's incredible. Only you could make a slideshow that rapid and in such quick gems. And people hear slideshow, they're like, oh no, it's gonna be 10 pictures of breakfast and 10.
Yeah, I know, and that's yes, I know, and that's the reason why I told you so many times that one of the things is I did not want to turn this into a slideshow presentation.
Well, that was incredible, but I'm not familiar with this part on the last photo about it being illegal. Is that considered a military spot?
No. That's just it's one of those things that we all have to do. It's like I don't know. Let me see what's the equivalent. I guess it's like visiting New York City, and you have to go to Battery Park and pose that. So you have to because you have to. It's the same thing if you go to Ushuaia, especially if you go to Ushuaia by motorcycle. You have to take this picture.
Fantastic. And Argentina, of course, is a long, large country. Where are the places we've overlooked that you said, yep, I would spend a week here if the road wasn't calling to me?
On this side of the world, two of my favorite places are Alaska and the southern tip of South America, and more or less for the same reason. They are significantly underpopulated, so you don't feel crowded. They are the beauty out of this world. Just the sheer mountains coming up. It's absolutely magic. And for those that like off-roading, it's you pick your road, and you can you can be off-road on a different road every day, and it's just gorgeous and absolutely gorgeous.
Let's talk about the world of Portuguese former territories, colonies, all the terms. You've got some interesting places that are seldom visited, other than people in communities such as ourselves. So I'm trying to think. The random travel generator. What have you been able to experience in Angola?
Angola is a difficult country, and it's been many moons since I've been there. It's first they went through a really bad civil war, and again, there's no good civil wars in Africa, and then there's a lot of corruption, whatever. So it's one of those countries that it's connected, but it's a difficult country for me, But on that topic, a plug for Malacca. I was in Malacca. It was absolutely totally incredible. It took me totally by surprise. I went to the Portuguese settlement, having a meal at the Lisbon restaurant, just the pride of those what they call themselves, the children of Albuquerque. It's to me, it was totally a huge surprise. And I need to go to Timor East. I've never been there, so that's on the list.
Yeah, it's an interesting point to think about. For that taste of Portuguese culture mixing with the local destination, it might be these trading posts like a Malacca, like a Gaul in Sri Lanka, rather than an entire country or territory that was claimed or ruled. In researching this, I did not know that Equatorial Guinea was handed from Portugal to Spain a few hundred years ago. And
we traded it. It was one of the best diplomatic deals we ever made. We traded the islands of, at the time was called Fernão Pó, by what it's now southern Brazil. There was a lot of fights about where did Brazil finished and where did Uruguay started. Well, between the Portuguese and Spanish. This is before there was Uruguay and Brazil, there's still Portugal and Spain, and we basically traded we settled that problem by trading Fernão Pó by the southern chunk, what it's now Rio Grande do Sul, with the Spanish. Back in those days, things could be done like that.
Yeah. I also did not know the Portuguese have a claim of some sort, a Labrador and part of Newfoundland.
Yeah, Labrador, people don't realize this, but Labrador is named after a Portuguese fisherman, João Fernandes Lavrador. João Fernandes Lavrador, who was a guy that went up there to catch codfish in the very, very end of the 1400s. Yeah, we've been, you've been to Portugal, the fascination that we have with cod. This is not something that came it's not from recent years. It's we have centuries, eating cod. And one of those guys that we used to go catch cod up there was was this Labrador guy, which eventually, gave the name to the sea current, to the peninsula, and to the dog.
Wow. Mentioning cod, Portuguese food is one of my favorites in the world. The treatments of seafood, the treatments of meats. I mean, just incredible, rich, delicious stuff. I enjoy more than any European cuisine. But the cod is always a little bit of a challenge for me. What are the cod dishes to get me hooked?
Well, cod is yes, I agree with you. Cod is a little bit complicated for let's put it this way, non-native inhabitants, because the cod is dried, it's salted, and then it's wetted and whatever. And by the time, normally people say this is too dry, it's too salty and whatever. But there's many ways to cook cod. So don't go with something with a cream-based cod. It's a lot. Bacalhau com natas, for example. But Yeah, everybody talks about cod when we talk about Portuguese cuisine, but Portuguese cuisine is a lot more than that. And like you, I'm a big fan of Portuguese cuisine. And I've traveled a little bit, and I've been able to compare it with other cuisines. What it's fascinating about Portuguese cuisine is how simple it is. Really, we have a soup in southern Alentejo, in southern Portugal, which is basically bread, olive oil, an egg, and coriander. So, and that's it. So what Nelson is saying, "Como está o abraço?" You know, uh, but so what that requires is that all the ingredients need to be absolutely
Mm.
fascinatingly fresh. And that we don't have too many sauces, not like the French. There's no way to disguise. So we need to have good ingredients, and if you have good ingredients, you end up with good end product. And that's exactly it. There's no mayonnaises, there's no Dijons, there's no mustards. It has to be good to start with, and you end up with a great product. And that's the trick about Portuguese cuisine.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I mean we love. Say, my wife loves the seafood, like the cockles, and just very very simple, steamed and garlic, and that not as you said, not covered in sauces, not deep frying things, and we so much miss. Occasional business trips over to New York, where we can go in the Ironbound neighborhood by Newark and go to the
Well,
Zebras.
next time you are in Portugal, give me a call, man. We'll go in a gastro eno tour of Portugal.
Absolutely, that'll be fantastic. So how about this? Speak to Madeira as a substitute for a first visit to Portugal. Yay, nay, you've got a short time, and ignore the British pensioners that spend all day grousing about things.
Madeira is one of the most sophisticated tourism that we have in Portugal. For from long time ago. It's a well developed product there. The hotels are great and whatever. And again, it depends on what you want to do. If you're looking for scenery, yeah, Madeira is beautiful. You got this valleys, this roads there, this dramatic views, and you have a nice social life as well. Go to Vespas, that's the place to go, the nightclub, and you eat well. If you want to go to the beach, I recommend Porto Santo, the island just north of Madeira, uh, a very small island, part of the archipelago of Madeira, but it has probably one of the best beaches in Portugal with nice and warm water. But again, it depends on what you want to do, and yeah, it could be a good place.
And speaking of your book career, you mentioned publishing a book earlier on. Talk about, so many of us want to write books and never get around to it. You've done it several times.
Yeah, yeah. At one point in time, for reasons that doesn't matter, I end up with a fairly good collection of guidebooks for driving through here and driving to there, the back roads of Paris, the back roads of France, the back, driving to Normandy and Brittany and whatever. And I never came across with a book that was similar to that for Portugal. And being a big, huge, as you probably noticed, being a big, huge fan of Portugal, and I decided to do it. And this is the time that the tourism was expanding in Portugal. Portugal was becoming popular. The book came out in 2011. So Portugal was becoming the place to be. It was the beginning of that process. It eventually got a lot worse. And what was happening was that the tourists were concentrating themselves in Lisbon and Porto. And so my idea was to incentivize, to create, to help those that wanted to rent a car and go inland, in the small roads, to discover the real, the real, the real Portugal, and the hidden gems and whatever. So that's the genesis of the book. And the book about Benin is slightly different. The book about Benin is more a photo, like a coffee table book. It was kind of a way of we spent 3 years, beautiful 3 years in living in Benin, and that was my way of saying thank you to that wonderful people, wonderful country, beautiful place, man. That's another place that you gotta go visit. Especially if you are into voodoo and you know.
Yeah, both Benin and Togo are small countries that have recently gotten much better connected with the the hub in Lomé, and very, I think, very, for people that are intimidated by West Africa, a great place to dive in. Coffee country in Togo, so many places to visit.
You can get visa online, so yeah, so it's fairly easy. It's strongly recommend Benin. Again, one of those small countries with a cultural diversity which is absolutely incredibly to imagine. It's really incredible how they've been able to stuff all that in just a small place.
Let's close with some advice for young people watching. So you've retired from a career in the energy business, private sector. Your wife is a public servant. You said the U.S. Foreign Service. Speak to those thinking about private sector, public sector, what to do for their future. I feel like certainly in the last several years in the U.S., public sector careers have taken a huge amount of abuse in the public imagination.
Which is really sad because a lot of public service people, they work so hard and they really not well treated sometimes. And I speak for what I know, diplomats, some of them serve in really, really difficult circumstances. Like, for example, right now, my wife is stuck in Central African Republic, and there's this perception that it's all about parties and cocktails and whatever, and it's certainly not the case. But anyway, my advice to young people, I mean, just travel. Just travel. It's we all travel for different reasons, as I was trying to, But to me, it makes you a better person. You understand what's happening. You see the way other people live. You see the way other people, the problems that they have. And I think that helps form you. And travel, at least again, we are all different. One of the things that I love to do and I try to do is I try always to expand a little bit the limits of comfort. I always try to push it back. There has to be a couple of moments that you wonder in any trip. There has to be a couple of moments that you wonder, what the hell am I doing here? Because you have to keep on pushing back that comfort limit, and yeah. But that'll be my recommendation. Travel.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us tonight, George.
Stephen, it's a great pleasure. I hope it went well. I hope your audience liked it, and we'll see. Thank you.